This is our last communication partner strategies session for this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. It's always nice to sort of get some resources filmed and things like that, but also to sort of organize the resources that we do have so that we can really quickly hand them out to teams. So what I'm going to do shortly after we upload this video is I'm going to make like a poster and it'll say training videos, and we'll send it around to all the schools so that you can put them up in your staff rooms and things like that. So if you have any new staff, any new teachers especially, we'd love for teachers to have access to this information. Any new EAs, any EAs providing coverage, any gaps of time where you might have an early dismissal or something and you want to do a little bit of Pro D. This is good for that kind of stuff. So we'll make sure that this information is available to everyone. So thank you to all of you who have been here every day and supporting us and learning alongside us. So last time we talked about teach more, test less. And that was really about augmenting students' comprehension and language input and prioritizing that over the expressive language and having a little bit of faith that, like, if you support the receptive language, the expressive language will come. How did that go for you this week? We were talking about becoming the sportscaster. So when I became the sportscaster, my AAC user, my learner, my child or student, how did that go? Oh, our student has been away, so we haven't tried anything yet. That is fair. That is absolutely fair. I find that when I focus more on the language input, I'm able to provide more neurodiversity affirming practices. I'm able to respond to all kinds of communication. I'm watching the student a little bit more. And so again, I'm able to respond to more different kinds of communication, and I see more. I see that there's more communication happening. Sometimes when you're so focused on the expressive, you see all the stuff that's not happening. They're not using these words. They're not using word combinations. But then when you actually switch and focus on the language input, I find that I see more gestural communication. I see what the student's looking at, and really able to be more responsive to them, and to provide the language input that they need, right? Part of this is, and this will extend into the strategy we talk about today, part of this is about providing language input about the thing that they're looking at and that they're paying attention to. And that's much easier when you're being the sportscaster. I alluded to this, but today's strategy is called follow their lead. Okay, and again, we're going to start with a video.
Is there something going on outside?
Look at these owls.
It looks like there's like a car accident or something.
Point to the bat.
I think we should call the police.
Show me the hat.
Like, I think we should check it out. I think there's something going on.
Where's Pink? What's wrong with this video? So remember when we talked about waiting? I actually literally count to 10 in my head before I talk again. I don't know if you've noticed that. Okay, so Reiko isn't listening to Kim. They're totally not talking about the same thing, right? Kim is really interested in what she's talking about. There's something really exciting going on, and she's really excited about that, and she wants to talk about that. Reiko is having none of it. So they're not, the language input that Kim is receiving is in her brain about the car accident or whatever that she's seeing outside. And when she's looking at a car accident and she's seeing touch Pink, like, that doesn't make any sense, right? This is not far off of sometimes what I see in communication interactions. So we'll talk about that in a second. So how about another video? This video is actually the same as we saw last week, but last week we were focused on me, right? What I was doing in the video. What I want you to do is focus on what Kim is doing in this video. Have you seen this book, Kim? Yeah, open it.
Open.
No, open the book. Open it. Open the book. Okay, now read the book. Read the book. Turn the page. Oops. Turn the page. Turn. No, turn the page. You want to be on the next page. Turn the page. Turn the page. Oh, okay, we're finished now. We're finished. It's the time's up. Time's up. We're finished. We're finished. Yeah. We're finished. Okay, thank you. Good job. So this is kind of what I was talking about, right? Like that Reiko is so focused on the things that Kim's not doing, right? Like I'm like, she's not following instructions. But if I had actually paid closer attention to what Kim was doing, I could see that she was reading certain parts of the page by using her finger. And I'm just kind of like rushing her through the activity, right? So Reiko isn't paying attention to Kim. Kim's communicating quite a bit in this situation. And Reiko is too busy testing Kim, too busy trying to get Kim to follow my directions to actually take a minute and look at what Kim is communicating and what Kim is actually doing. What could Reiko do instead? So we call the strategy follow their lead. So we're letting the learner lead the interaction. It's not about what I want to happen, right? We're going to put my plan aside and it's all about what the learner wants. So we're actually going to start with this graphic over here. So ways to follow your child's lead: respond with interest, join in with their play, interpret communication attempts. So that means like if I see them looking at something, I might say, I might talk about how interesting that is, how I like it, it's good, that kind of thing. But also, if they're reaching for something, interpreting that to be, I want something. Comment, follow through with requests, and imitate. This says, follow their lead, do and talk about things they are interested in. Notice what they are communicating using other strategies, gestures, facial expressions, body language. Model language that reflects that communication. So you've seen me use some of these graphics. This is our last session, so I want to tell you about all the resources as well, right? So this is from the AAC coach, and she has lots and lots of great sort of quick graphics like this for tips about working with AAC users. So why is it important to follow the AAC user's lead? I'm going to bring us back to the Communication Bill of Rights again. I've never done this with the Communication Bill of Rights, and this was inspired by a parent, like I mentioned last time, and I actually have really enjoyed going in and thinking about what strategies apply to the Communication Bill of Rights, so I hope that this was good for you as well. So one thing is to say how I feel and what I like, right? So we can interpret that if AAC user is looking at something or interacting with it, that is something that they like, and we need to give them language to talk about those things, right? To be acknowledged and responded to is another thing. And so this, to me, speaks to all the multimodal communication that's happening. Again, we want to keep things super duper fun. And if we're constantly focusing on what the student is not doing, that's not as fun as us focusing on all the things that they are doing and all the communication that is happening in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know if you know this. I thought that this was really interesting when I first learned it. They've done some research around this, and people who are neurospicy have a hard time neurologically shifting their attention from one thing to another. It's actually physically hard. So you might find that your autistic clients, they get really focused on something, and you're over here saying, hey, and trying to get their attention, and they're not shifting their attention. It's because their brain is wired to pay attention to one thing at a time. So they're really focusing on this thing over here, and you're talking about this thing over here. So then you're not lining up, right? And so this is not always possible. I'm going to acknowledge that, right? Like sometimes we need to line up so that we can all go to the gym. And following your lead at that time is a little bit tricky. But if it's, you're in kindergarten, it's centers time, or you are riding the bus together and we're looking out the window together, there's going to be lots of times where you can do this. So I'm not saying you have to do this every single moment of every single day, right? But just for you to remember too, that this is actually neurological, biological, that it's really hard to shift attention from one thing to another. And so what I see is that the students are really engrossed in some activity, and somebody is coming along and saying, no, 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 we're going to do my activity instead, right? And so that can get a little bit tricky. So how do I do this? Like I said, you kind of need to throw your own plans out the window, right? So this isn't for every moment of every day. I want you to get down to your learner's level. And what I mean is, I want you to be able to see their face, not their back, right? So if they're sitting on the floor, you might sit on the floor as well, just so you can actually really see what they're looking at and you can see their facial expressions. And sometimes the communication is so subtle that you might not even notice it until you're really down to their level. And watch them. What are they paying attention to? What do they want to talk about? And then model with no expectations. Again, we're still focusing on the language input, right? They are focused on cars, so we're going to provide language input about cars, right? If we think about those videos with Reiko and Kim, Kim wants to read that book, and I'm busy telling her about like essentially the pages of the book, right? She's focused on the content of the book. Kim is focused on the accident outside, so Reiko should talk about the accident outside. She shouldn't be trying to talk about the owl diaries. This happens a lot, right? Some of our kids love looking out the window. And sometimes, staff are like, oh, come back over here. We're going to do this other fun activity in the classroom. But remember that for this student, it's difficult for them to shift their attention, and something has caught their attention outside. So why not focus on what's outside? Now, if I'm with a student and they're focused on outside, I'm not going to, again, remembering that shifting attention is difficult. I'm not going to be like, hey, look over here, I'm modeling behind you, right? Like that's shifting attention as well. What I do is I come and I put the talker in between the student and the window, not so that you're blocking, the view of the car or the bus that they're looking at, but just enough so that this is kind of in their eye line as well, right? And then I do the modeling there. And we might talk about, oh, look at the car go. There's a stop sign out there. And oh no, the guy's turning now. What a great environment. They're engrossed in watching the cars and watching the traffic. And what a great environment for them to learn those words: go, stop, turn. You might even talk about how the blinkers are going on and off, right? I have lots of friends that do this, and I wonder if you guys do too. Sometimes our clients engage in sort of unconventional play, right? So rather than driving the cars, they might want to just line them up. And so this is a great opportunity to model words like beside, and to get in there and really, try to figure out like, what is it about this situation that they like. If you can teach a little bit of or model a little bit of conventional play, that's great, but that's not necessarily required when we're following their lead, right? So, but this is again a great way to say this goes beside, and I would go into this describe button and talk about, oh, that's the same, that's different, and you'll find lots of things to model in here. And then you might say, oh no, this one needs to go forward, this one needs to go back, and oh, this looks good, and really try to engage in the play that they're doing, not necessarily trying to change the play, but maybe add to it a little bit. If you can. Sometimes it's upsetting for people to mess with my cars, so maybe I have one car. Reiko's car is pink, and Reiko's car is going to go in the tunnel, right? But not forcing them to go in the tunnel. Modeling the conventional play, but using it more as opportunities for language modeling as opposed to and expanding play as opposed to a requirement. Sometimes my clients get, what's the word I'm looking for here? So my clients will be doing something, some sort of sensory thing, and I need to figure out what that's about, right? So say they're looking up at the sky, and this is a student that looks up a lot. Okay, so I might actually look up, right? Try to figure out what are they looking at, what are they getting out of this, and provide appropriate language modeling. If they're clapping, I don't know, I might clap along with them a little bit and just kind of try to engage with them in the way that they're exploring their environment. So again, it's not about me changing the student. It's about adding a little bit of engagement and adding a little bit of language modeling to these opportunities that these students are enjoying, right? Don't do this if they're in the yellow zone though, right? Like if they're trying to regulate themselves because they're a little bit escalated, that's not the time to start imitating and stuff, I don't think. But if they're in the green zone and if they're well regulated, then yeah, get in there. And then what? These slides have remained the same the whole time that we've been chatting here. So acknowledge any communication as meaningful, model a word on the or two on the AAC system, and wait. So this is really important because this is the whole point of what we've been talking about, right? Multimodal communication and modeling. And again, there's no requirement from the AAC user to actually press any buttons, just modeling. And why are we doing this? Again, this slide has been the same throughout. So we're teaching AAC users that their communication is powerful, their communication has meaning, and their communication can change their environment. We're supporting language input, and we're supporting comprehension. And by doing these things, we will get more expressive communication. Okay, so your homework. I mean, this is the end. We're not going to follow up after you, right? So your homework this week is really to get down to their level and to explore all the things that we've been talking about, right? Waiting, giving choices, engaging in play with them, and doing all the things that support communication. Hopefully, these sessions have provided a good base for you, some base skills, so that when we come around, you have questions for us, or you can say, oh, you know what, I tried this and this is what I saw and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I tried this and it didn't really work. Can you watch me and give me any suggestions? You know, we love to hear that kind of stuff too. So hopefully we're going to be seeing you, or the school SLPs are going to be seeing you, and we'll have more contact as we go along. And this isn't it. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the word of the week. So I haven't given you a word of the week this week. Instead, what I want to do is explain sort of how I pick a word. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this core vocabulary, and I'm actually going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, so what is it that I'm not really using very often? Often teens are using want a lot. We've already started with some words. I don't like to do one word a week because I feel like that goes too slowly, right? If we do one word a week, it takes us 50 weeks to get through 50 words, right? But if we do 2 words a week, we can get through 50 words in 25 weeks. That's much better. So we're going to do word pairs, and I'm going to look and I'm going to say, what am I not using very much? And you know what? I'm not using in and out very much. So I'm going to model those words this week. Another thing that you can do is, you know, around this time, like when it's December right now, and so around this time we get a lot of like sparkly things in hallways and things like that, right? So there's decorations, there's lots of stuff to look at in the hallways, there's lots of stuff to look at in the classroom, and so it's a great time to practice things like compliments and talking about whether or not I like something, right? So, you know, modeling like versus don't like, modeling good, all of those things are great. You can also go into descriptions, right? And explore some of those words as well. But I think that, you know, what we want to focus on are these green words, are these turquoise words, right? The verbs and the prepositions. So pick whatever makes sense for you, right? Think about your week ahead and what that might look like. And you know, it might be that you're going on a field trip somewhere. It might be that you are going swimming later in the week. And so you might want to pick something that makes sense for those events as well. So this was our last session. Thank you very much to all of you who have watched us and followed us through our series of 4. And I'll open it up to questions, and Kim and I will hang out until the very end. And otherwise, we'll see you out there.